In a shocking turn of events, British retailer PMT has just closed its doors. Most people that know me on this channel will know that I review bass gear. And I wanted to kind of look at why this might have happened, why this trend is happening, and what we can maybe do to help stop this happening in the future. Because if I'm honest, I think this is going to keep happening if we don't change things up a little bit. So for those that might not be aware, PMT is a UK-based music retailer having, I think it was 11 stores across the country. Certainly the most popular one that I can think of in terms of physical stores. Their managing director says in a quote here about the closure, "It's been a rough few years for specialist music equipment retailers who have battled headwinds, including rising costs, dwindling margins, and the rising cost affecting consumer behavior." Now, we all love a good deal. I love a good deal. I love affordable gear and, getting things at a sensible price. And he is totally right in that statement that costs are rising, margins are dwindling, and it's becoming even more difficult for these brands to stay competitive. But I do think that brands like PMT have kind of been swallowed up into this kind of old-fashioned way of retail. These are normally big shops with walls of guitars everywhere. And with music shops, traditionally, you go in, you try out all the new stuff that's there that they've got in stock, and then you go elsewhere and buy it online at the best price because times are hard for everyone right now. I always relished the opportunity to go into a PMT. I always love going in and having that moment when you see everything on the walls and you can try things out, and kind of having all that stuff in there. It's good for the selection, but bad for the maintenance of those guitars. Whenever I pick things up and play them in PMT, often the setups are just terrible. And that's not the fault of like the staff, they're doing it, and things like that. It's to do with the sheer quantity of things there, because it's, like I said, impossible to keep on top of all of that. And so I feel like the breadth of stock and the size of the shops, as well as having the massive overheads that come with that, trying to overpromise and then under-delivering in that department, in the shop experience. I've spoken to a lot of American audience members before. People always assume that Andertons is a huge shop. It's not. It's a tiny shop in Guildford, one shop. But what it is always busy. I've never been in a PMT shop and it be absolutely rammed, people everywhere, people buying guitars. I've been lucky to go to Guildford and go in there every time I've stepped foot in the town and always had a great experience. The staff have been fantastic. The stock is good and everything played amazingly because they probably had the ability and time to pay attention to those guitars. So the in-shop experience was really good as well. Now, contrary to this, GAK is another example of a brand that went under this year, having a similar model to Andertons also, but not capitalizing so much on that social media presence. I never think of GAK or GAK in terms of socials and things like that. It's an area that I think they really lacked, and in this modern time, it's why we're talking right now. It's so important, and so you just have to be able to nail that. And that's why brands like Andertons, of course, are the UK leaders, because their online presence is so good. And now, of course, not everyone can have a YouTube channel going for over a decade and be able to ride on the success of that. And PMT have tried doing this, and they had the fantastic Dagan and even my podcast co-host Chris being on the PMT channel. But the content, both long form and short form, that brands like Andertons are doing, and even places like Guitar are doing, in particular in the short form content, is just that little bit better right now.
Oh, hello, me again. Whilst we're on the topic of Guitar, they've just done something really cool and done a post on their socials pleading any former PMT staff to go and apply for some of their vacancies that they've got in a minute. And that's a really good example of a company that cares about its employees, because Guitar is actually owned by the employees, not just like a CEO, managing director. The employees have the best interest of the success of the store. So I think that's an interesting kind of different model that could be used for music shops in the future as well, perhaps. Now I really hope that I haven't just jinxed Guitar into closure. Let's get back to the video.
Now, when both GAK and PMT now have gone under, what's happened? Gear for Music have swept in and purchased the stock and been able to essentially be able to monopolize. And that's where I'm kind of afraid in the direction we're going. I love Gear for Music. I buy from them all the time. Fantastic company. But we might get the Disney effect if other brands keep getting swallowed up and there's less competition. And that's only bad for the consumer when these brands start to monopolize and control the prices on the market or be able to charge more what they want, because who else are you going to go to? We're not at that stage yet, but that's what kind of scares me a little bit and where we could go. So now I want to talk about what we should do. My message to everyone at home is you must support your local shop. Although the big retailers get the headlines when they close down, and it's a big shock, it's the small local shops that are disappearing at the same rate as well. So I'd like to make a plea that if you're thinking about picking up a bit of bass gear or guitar gear or something like that, to go and try it in your local shop and then buy it from them as well. The first review or the second review I did on this channel was of the Squier Classic Vibe 60s Precision bass, and I bought that bass on a whim after going into PMT with the intention of coming out with the Fender Standard Series P bass. Only through that experience, going into a shop, trying something for myself, did I go, oh, this Squier is much better than that Fender. I'm going with the Squier. Now, especially in the affordable market, I always recommend people go and try things out for yourself first, because when you buy mass-produced products, fact is, you're more likely to get a lemon. So I just want to echo that message down, really, to go and support a local shop, try something, and then buy it there as well. It might cost you a little more, but that money is going to go much further in terms of supporting a business, because it's actions like that that are going to help them get through that month, that year. And it's very easy for me to sit here and say, yes, you should spend more money. You have the money to do that. Of course, people will spend what they can afford, but for those that can afford it, that's where we should be putting our money. Personally, I wonder if there's now a bigger market for a different style of music shop. I love going to places like Bass Bros in the UK. It's a single location, appointment only showroom that you can go and try basses. Everything is set up when it comes in. You know, it's mostly one-of-ones because it's mostly used gear. But that's an example of a different kind of retailer business in musical instruments that can be a bit more flexible and is able to just provide a better experience for the user. The other thing I thought about as well is pop-up shops. I'm always sick of seeing like boarded up shops in the high street. And of course, my first thing I think of is a music shop. Perhaps it's not the most sustainable model, particularly when margins are being crushed so much. So maybe something that doesn't have such high margins would be pop-up shops. A moving music shop going across the country. Something like that could be really cool. It might be a terrible idea, but it's those kind of ideas that I feel like need to happen or need to rejuvenate this industry, because I can only see it getting worse over time, unfortunately, and it's just a really difficult place in the world right now. And we haven't even mentioned Trump and tariffs and things like that, which will inevitably really damage these retailers. But there we go. Let me know what your experience with PMT has been and how you're feeling about this whole scenario that's happening right now. Make sure you hit subscribe as well. Talking about supporting independence, that's what you want to do by hitting subscribe and liking this video, sharing it with friends, etc., etc. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.